What's up, guys, and welcome to the weekly Q&A. Our first question this week comes from 3 patrons and 1 YouTuber, and all of them asked how Ezra got his green lightsaber crystal. I gotta say, right up front, the answer is we don't know. We haven't been told that story. So the best we can do is speculate, and I've seen some people suggest that maybe Kanan gave Ezra Depa-Billabba's old lightsaber crystal. I find that hard to believe because he almost certainly did not have her lightsaber. She died defending him with her lightsaber as he ran away from Order 66, so I don't know how he would have gotten it back. We know Ezra couldn't have gotten it from the Lothal Temple because the Empire took over it and probably destroyed it at the end of Season 2. So my best guess would be that he did get it somewhere on Lothal, just because it's his home world and we have confirmation that Kyber crystals were on that planet. But straight up, it's just a story we haven't been told yet, so maybe we'll get an adventure down the line that shows how Ezra got his new lightsaber crystal, or maybe we'll never be told and it just wasn't an interesting story. Jordan Stanley wants to know if Luke ever heard about his grandmother, Shmi Skywalker, from his aunt and uncle. Again, we don't know for sure, but I have to imagine that at some point he was told about her. I mean, he had stories about his father, albeit false ones, but if he was asking about his father, certainly they would have mentioned his grandmother who was buried just outside their house, so I assume that the answer is yes. And also in Legends, Leia actually went back to the Lars homestead and found one of Shmi's old journals, so she learned about Shmi in Legends, so there's that. Matthew Lueck asks if the Star Wars community is a little too nitpicky when it comes to the Star Wars canon. And for an example, he mentioned the Revenge of the Sith no scene and how it's a little different from the way it was portrayed in the Darth Vader comics. And to address that first, that was actually confirmed to be a continuation of the scene, not an alternate version. That's something that I messed up when I first started talking about the comic. But my answer is still yes. I think that fans, and I'm mostly talking about myself here, can get a little hung up on details like that. I mean, I have to stop myself sometimes and just be like, does this really matter? Is this diminishing my enjoyment of Star Wars? And most of the time, the answer is no. Because you just have to remember that this is a universe being contributed to by hundreds of different creators. So we're all just human. There's going to be mess-ups. There's going to be inconsistencies. And for the most part, they're just going to be minor little details that just aren't big deals. For example, let's pretend that the Revenge of the Sith scene and that canon comic, let's say that those were actually alternate versions. As fans, I think we just have a right to say, I like this one more, and I'm going to go with that. And in the long run, it doesn't really affect anything either way. So yeah, I think that everyone should just kind of not get too hung up on the really small stuff. And I'm talking to myself here. Josh McIntyre wants to know what part Inferno Squad will play in Operation Cinder. For the game's purposes, I'm expecting that we're going to get to go on missions throughout the galaxy, so we'll probably be planet hopping. And for Operation Cinder, I mean, the whole point of the contingency was kind of just to create chaos, and not just for the rebellion, but it was also about wiping out the unworthy Imperials that let the Emperor die. So it's possible we could have missions against the Empire. Maybe we have to assassinate someone, which would be very conflicting and interesting. But Inferno Squad and Iden Versio, they're considered very die-hard loyal Imperials, so I definitely expect that they're going to be well, we know, I think, from the trailer that we're going to be at the Battle of Jakku, but I expect that they're going to be spared and sent the coordinates to the unknown regions, so there's a chance that we might see the eclipse on screen. There's a chance we might get to explore the unknown regions, but ultimately I have no idea, and your guess is as good as mine. Emily Filianor asks what games caught my eye at E3 besides Battlefront 2, because that's a given. I'm a big Nintendo fanboy, so Metroid Prime 4 and Mario Odyssey, I'm very excited about both of those. At EA Play, they also showed A Way Out, and that game looks really unique and interesting. I can't wait to play that with a friend. And the Spider-Man game kind of caught my eye. I thought that looked pretty cool too. That's it for patron questions. If you're a patron and you didn't see your question answered here, just head over to Patreon where I left you a written response. If you're not a patron, you can learn more by following the link in the description. Just $1 a month will get you access to extra Star Wars Explained goodies like monthly giveaways and audio commentaries for the films, and the combined donations really go a long way in helping support the channel. On to YouTube questions. Screen Ninja asks if there are any Star Wars stories in the new canon that I think could be adapted into video games. I think not the new Darth Vader comic, the first Darth Vader comic would have been pretty cool as a video game. It's kind of set up perfectly for it because we have all of these new rivals of Darth Vader that don't use the Force. They're more technologically advanced and kind of on level ground with him. They're made by Dr. Silo. So they could have been basically mini bosses throughout the game. And then at the end you have to fight and take down Dr. Silo and all of his clones. I think that would have been pretty cool. Liam O wants to know why Obi-Wan didn't use the Force to run down that hallway in The Phantom Menace and get to Qui-Gon to help him faster. I have seen people joke about how he would have just run right down the hole, and I actually do think that's a valid point. But more than that, I would just argue that we don't know or understand exactly how the Force works. I mean, we just say, why didn't he use the Force to do this or that? Why didn't the Jedi use the Force to do everything? It's not something, in my opinion, that can just be instantly called out and used. It requires a certain degree of concentration and a level of zen. So in that moment, Obi-Wan's probably feeling a lot of anxiety and maybe a little fear. I don't know how zen he was, so he probably just didn't have it in him to use the Force to speed down that hallway. Sturfelt asks what kind of stories I think we'll get in the upcoming Luke and Leia books that'll be a part of the Journey to the Last Jedi line. The Leia book is going to take place when she's about 16. I don't really know what to expect from that story-wise, but it's by Claudia Gray, so it's probably going to be great. The Luke one is a little harder to peg down because we're getting a collection of myths and tales about Luke, so I'm expecting we're going to see stuff from his childhood, through the Galactic Civil War, through the Battle of Endor and beyond. I think we're going to get stories from all throughout his childhood, and they might be a little exaggerated. I don't know. It'll be interesting to see. I don't know how much of it's going to be canon in the sense that oh, it really happened, or it's just a story that exists within the universe that people tell each other, and he's become kind of this legendary figure, and I don't know what's going to be true and what won't be in that book. Camino Groove wants to know what Biggs' role in the rebellion would have been had he survived the Battle of Yavin. Okay, now you're just pandering to me, but it's working. I'm going to answer the question. I think Biggs just would have kept on serving with Wedge and Luke in Rogue Squadron. I also think he probably would have been below Wedge because Wedge just had more seniority. He was in the rebellion for longer, so I think Wedge would have been Red Leader at the Battle of Endor still, but man, I would have loved to see an old, wise, gray mustached Biggs in the Resistance. That would have been great. Larry and Joe TV asks who I think will be in the Bounty Hunter movie if that rumor comes true and we do get a Bounty Hunter team-up movie. I mean, I think the 6 from The Empire Strikes Back are the obvious choices, so Boba Fett, Dengar, IG-88, Bosk, Forlom, and Zuckuss, but I think this would be a perfect opportunity to bring back Cad Bane, assuming he's still alive. I think Inbo would be a great choice because we know he's alive at least through the Battle of Jakku. And while I'm making these grand wishes, I think the main villain should be Prince Xizor and the Black Sun. Let's get them back. That's all the time I have for questions today. If you want to leave me a question for next week's video, just put it in the comments below or sign up for Patreon to join our weekly Q&A discussion. If you haven't already, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and follow me on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. As always, thanks for watching, and may the Force be with you.